Welcome to the Night Shift Journals. There is a place for the sick, and there is a place for the dying. But in the hours after midnight, in the sterile corridors of a hospital, those two places bleed together. Tonight, we begin with the first night. We follow Emma Chun, a 29-year-old nurse, as she begins her first permanent night shift in the ICU of St. Catherine's Hospitala Place, with a dark, 20-year-old secret centered around a single, missing bed. This is a story of medical suspense, of supernatural horror, and of the lines we cross when we try to play God. If you enjoy tales of suspense that crawl under your skin and stay there, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. And for those of you who have worked the night shift, who know what the silence really sounds like, let us know in the comments what you've seen when the lights go out. But for now, turn down your own lights. Settle in. The shift is about to begin. 8 p.m. The sound of liberation for the day shift, who flee the unit like bats from a cave. For the night shift, it is the sound of the tumblers falling into place, locking the door behind them. For Emma Chun, this was it. The first of countless 12-hour descents. You're set, Chun. Head nurse Claire Thompson didn't ask. She stated. Claire was a woman carved from granite and starched linen. 50 years old and possessing an authority that hummed around her like high-voltage wires. Her shoes, pristine white, made an aggressive, squeaking sound on the polished linoleum, as if the floor itself was apologizing for being in her way. Yes, Ms. Thompson, Emma replied, her voice steady. Good. The ICU is an island. 12 beds. We are the last stop. What happens here stays here. You'll have Tom and Jenna with you. Tom's our veteran. Jenna's enthusiastic. You'll also have Ben from respiratory. He's fine, just don't make eye contact before his 10 p.m. coffee. Claire began the tour, her voice a sharp monotone that cut through the digital symphony of the ICU. The air was a pressurized soup of smells, the acrid, eye-watering punch of bleach, the cold sting of rubbing alcohol, and underneath it all, a faint, metallic temps, like old pennies. Bed 3's post-C, ABG, stable vitals. Bed 5, GI bleed, watching his pressure. Bed 7, MVA, GCs of 3. He's a vegetable. Just keep him watered. Emma nodded, absorbing the clinical coldness. This was the language of the ICU, a necessary detachment. She followed Claire through the circular unit. The nurse's station at its center, an island of flickering monitors. But the circle was broken. After bed 12, there was a gap. A wide, conspicuously empty space before the loop completed. At bed 1, I count 12 beds, Emma observed. But the floor plan looks like it was configured for 13. Claire stopped. The squeaking of her shoes stopped. Even the beep-beep-beep of the monitors seemed to quiet, as if holding their breath. That, Claire said, her voice dropping half an octave, is bed 13? It is permanently out of service. Out of service, Emma clarified. Like, for maintenance? Is the equipment faulty? Nurse Chun, Claire turned, her eyes like chips of ice. There is no bed 13. This is a 12-bed unit. You will chart for 12 beds. You will stalk for 12 beds. You will not ask about the empty space. You will not look at the empty space. It is a ... structural anomaly. A quirk of the blueprints. Am I clear? It was the most emotion Emma had heard from her. It was a threat, wrapped in hospital policy. Crystal, Emma said. Good. Claire's face snapped back to its placid mask. She was introduced to her team. Jenna, as promised, was a hummingbird fueled by anxiety and a 32-ounce energy drink. Tom, the veteran, was leaning against a counter, his eyes heavy-lidded. A man who looked like he had been personally holding the hospital together since the dawn of time. New blood, Tom grunted, not unkindly. He took a long, loud sip from a mug that said, "I'm a ray of FCK, ING. Sunshine Asterisk. Welcome to the circus, kid. Just 2 rules. The coffee machine lies, and don't let the 4 a.m. quiet fool you." "It's plotting," noted. Emma smiled. This job wasn't a random choice. 9 years old? That's when her father, a medical researcher, had died. An accident, her mother said. But her mother was a terrible liar. Emma became a nurse to find answers, and she'd clawed her way to this specific hospital. St. Catherine's, the last place Dr. David Chun ever worked. Later, as the din of the day faded, Emma did her initial rounds, checking equipment. The silence of the night shift was different. It was heavy. You could hear the fluorescence of the lights. You could hear the dust motes landing. She found herself in the empty space. Bed 13, she looked. The walls were unnaturally blank. The oxygen ports, the suction outlets, the code blue panel all sealed with smooth sterile white faceplates, an architectural scar. She crouched, the fabric of her scrubs pulling tight. She ran her fingers over the cold, seamless linoleum. She felt nothing. She shifted, letting the sickly green glow from Bed 7's monitor cast long shadows, and she saw it. 4 faint, almost imperceptible indentations in the floor. The exact footprint of an ICU bed. And within that rectangle, the linoleum itself felt different. Colder, smoother. As if it had been scrubbed clean of its very texture, over and over, for years. Midnight passed. The hours between 1 and 3 a.m. are not hours. They are a deep, dark well of recycled air and profound stillness. The dead time. Jenna was at the nurse's station, her head bobbing as she fought off sleep, her highlighter pen slipping from her fingers. Emma was charting, the rhythmic click-clack of her typing the only sound. Tom had shuffled off to the break room, muttering about sacrificing a goat for a fresh pot of coffee. 2:15 a.m. It happened. Not an alarm, not a beep. A sound like a tearing sheet of metal. A violent shredding of white noise that blasted from the central monitor station. Emma leaped to her feet, her heart slamming into her ribs. What the? Every monitor all 12 erupted into a blizzard of blinding static. A snowstorm of digital ghosts. Jenna. Simultaneously, from the rooms, the bedside monitors joined the chorus. Beds 3, 5, and 7. The same tearing, electronic scream. Training took over. Jenna, check 3 and 5. I've got 7. Emma ran. Her feet barely touched the ground. She burst into Bed 7's bay. The coma patient was still, a landscape of tubes and wires. The monitor above him was a waterfall of static. She grabbed his wrist. His skin was waxy, but his pulse was thready, steady. He was breathing with a ventilator. He was fine. Bed 3 is stable. Jenna yelled, her voice high with panic. Bed 5 is fine. Tom came running from the break room, his mug splashing coffee. Damn it, not again. The word again snagged in Emma's brain. And as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The static vanished. The shriek cut to a deafening silence. The monitors all flickered, went black, and then rebooted, one by one, displaying the calm, steady green lines of life. The entire event. Emma glanced at her watch. She'd been counting. Exactly 13 seconds. What the hell was that? Jenna panted, bracing herself against the wall. That, Tom said, with a sigh of profound weariness, was the 2:15 floor show. Right on time. What do you mean, right on time? Emma demanded. This place is ancient, Tom grumbled, rubbing his temples. The wiring is pre-Victorian. We get surge as happens all the time. That was not a surge, Tom, Emma said, walking back to the central station. Her mind was racing. The ventilators didn't stop. The pumps are all green. It was only the cardiac monitors. And ... She stopped. She was staring at the digital event logs. And, she whispered, this is impossible. At 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 0 seconds a.m., the logs 4 beds, 3, 5, and 7, the 3 beds closest to the empty space, showed an identical anomaly. Their heart rates, Emma read, her voice numb. All spiked at 300, then flatlined to asystole. All within the same second. Data corruption, Tom said, a little too quickly. The surge scrambled the logs. It's meaningless. They're 3 different machines, Tom. The odds of them all corrupting in the exact same way. Kid, Tom said, his voice quiet. It's your first night. Take a veteran's advice. Some things in this place, you just file the report and walk away. It's faulty equipment. Got it? He turned to wipe down a counter that was already clean. Emma watched him. His voice was bored, but the hand holding the rag, it was trembling, a fine, uncontrollable tremor. Emma's blood ran cold. She went to the small, windowless charting room, tucked behind the station. The air in here was stale, thick with the smell of old paper and dust. She needed to file the incident report. She pulled the keyboard tray out. Her fingers brushed against a piece of paper. A small, folded square of hospital stationery, stiff and old. She unfolded it. The handwriting was elegant, spidery, written with a fountain pen. They're still here. 2:15 a.m. is when the veil is thinnest. At the bottom, a single initial. S. 3 a.m. The witching hour. The note felt like a small, cold stone in her pocket. Emma told herself it was a prank. A sick, elaborate hazing for the new girl. Tom, with his gallows humor, it had to be. She forced her mind back to protocol. Back to the work. She moved to bed 7, the 48-year-old MVA. John Doe, GCS of 3. His body was a map of trauma, but his face was weirdly peaceful. The air around his bed was still, carrying the faint, metallic temps of nutrients from his feeding tube. She was there to document his routine care, turning him, checking his catheter output, applying moisture to his eyes. She reached for his physical chart, a thick binder kept at the foot of the bed. In an age of digital records, griddle care comas still required a hard copy backup. She opened the binder to the nursing notes section, the plastic cover crackling in the silence. Her own handwriting, from 8:30 p.m., was the last entry. Neat, blocky, professional. She uncapped her pen, ready to write, and she froze. Her pen hovered, motionless. Beneath her last entry, there was a new line. It was not her handwriting. It was not Tom's. It was not Jenna's. It was the same, elegant spidery cursive from the note in her pocket. The deep blue-black ink hadn't just been written on the page. It looked soaked into the paper fibers, as if it had bled from within. The coppery smell of the ink was sharp. He shouldn't wake up. Emma's breath hitched. This wasn't a prank. This was ... a threat. Was someone trying to harm this patient? Was this a message? Her clinical mind warred with a rising, primal fear. Her first instinct was to document. She pulled out her phone, her hands shaking, and snapped a clear photo of the page. The flash was obscenely loud, like a gunshot in the quiet room. She grabbed the binder and strode quickly, silently, to the nurse's station. "Tom, Jenna." Her voice was a low, urgent hiss. They both looked up, startled by her intensity. "Who wrote this?" Emma slapped the binder onto the counter, her finger jabbing at the blue ink. "Which one of you wrote this?" "It's not funny." Tom leaned in, his glasses slipping. His face, already pale, turned the color of drywall. I didn't write that." "Emma, I swear." "Jenna, God, no." Jenna recoiled. What pen is that? Who uses a fountain pen? That's creepy as hell." "I don't believe this," Emma muttered. Her rational mind was screaming. "There is an explanation. There is always an explanation. I'm showing this to Claire in the morning. I just took a picture as proof." To emphasize her point, she unlocked her phone. She opened her photo gallery, and the world tilted. She stared at the screen. The photo she had just taken was wrong. The chart was there. Her own handwriting was there. But the line of blue ink, ... it had changed. It no longer said, "He shouldn't wake up." On her phone screen, in the same spidery blue-black script, the words now read, "Help us. Emma, Emma, what's wrong?" Jenna's voice sounded distant. Emma's head snapped up from the phone. She looked, frantically, back down at the physical chart in her hands. On the paper, the ink was unchanged. It still said, "He shouldn't wake up." A terrifying, impossible paradox. The chart said one thing, her phone said another. She rubbed the screen, as if to wipe the words away, but they stayed. Pixelated, taunting. What is going on here? The voice was Claire Thompson's. She was standing at the ICU entrance, her arms crossed, her expression like thunder. Emma's throat was dry. She couldn't explain the phone. It was insane. So she held up the physical chart. "Miss Thompson," Emma said, her voice trembling. "I found this, ... this note, in Bed 7's chart. It's not my handwriting." Claire walked over. Her pace was deliberate. She looked down at the binder. Her eyes locked onto the blue-inked sentence. The ironclad, professional mask cracked. It wasn't just fear. It was recognition. A deep, cold, familiar dread. Her face blanched. Her eyes widened, just for a second, before she slammed her emotional shields back into place. "Where?" she whispered, her voice tight. "Did you find this?" "It was just ... there, in the chart." Claire snatched the binder from Emma's hands, slamming it shut. "This incident is finished. I will handle the chart. You will not speak of this to anyone. You are overtired. You saw nothing." She turned and marched out of the ICU, clutching the binder to her chest, as if it were a venomous snake. Emma stood frozen. She stumbled back to the terminal. She had to know. If someone was messing with the charts... She pulled up the electronic medical record for Bed 7. She navigated to the System's audit logga, background file that tracked every single axis. Her eyes scanned the log. 2:14 a.m. 2:16 a.m. There. At 2 hours 15 minutes and 10 seconds a.m. during the 30-second blackout, the digital chart for Bed 7 had been accessed and edited. Emma clicked on the user details for that edit. Her blood ran cold. Login user. Null. Access terminal. Unknown. 4 a.m. The hour of the wolf. The air in the ICU was stale and thick with an unspoken dread. Tom and Jenna were huddled at the nurse's station, speaking in whispers, casting nervous glances at Emma. Emma was trying to rationalize. A 13-second blackout, a ghost in the security footage, a note from a haunted chart, a digital log entry from Null. It's an IT problem, she told herself. A massive, terrifying IT problem. And the note is a prank. A sick, cruel prank. Her mind felt frayed, like a live wire sparking in the dark. She was exhausted. Of course. Why not? She muttered under her breath. We've had ghosts in the machines. Now we have ghosts in the charts. What's next? Zombie doctors in the cafeteria. And then she heard it. A sound that did not belong. Squeak, ... Roll, ... Squeak, ... Roll. It was the sound of old wheels, of metal axles that hadn't been oiled since ... Ever. It was the distinctive, rusty cry of an old-fashioned hospital gurney. It was coming from outside the ICU, in the main hospital corridor. Emma stood up. The ICU doors were motion-sensitive, but required a badge to get in. She walked to the heavy glass doors, peering out into the long, dim hallway. The main corridor was lit only by the green, glowing exit signs. It was a tunnel of shadows. A figure was moving down the hall. It was a woman. She was pushing a gurney. Emma squinted. The woman was wearing a nurse's uniform. But it was wrong. It was a starched, white dress. A small, crisp, white cap pinned to her hair. It was the uniform from the History of St. Catherine's photo display in the main lobby. The uniform from the 1990s, and the gurney lay a form, completely covered by a white sheet. "Hey!" Emma called out, her voice muffled by the glass. "Hello!" She pressed the button to open the ICU doors. They hissed open, and the sound of the squeaking wheels was suddenly louder, echoing in the empty hall. Squeak, ... Roll. As the doors opened, a draft of cold air washed over Emma, carrying a faint, nostalgic smell. Lavender-scented talcum powder. Old soap. "Ma'am, please wait." Emma stepped out into the hallway. "What unit are you with? You transporting a patient?" The nurse did not stop. She did not turn around. She just kept walking, her movements stiff and unnaturally smooth, pushing the gurney toward the end of the hall. "Ma'am, stop. You're going the wrong way." The figure reached the end of the corridor. It was a dead end, leading only to a heavy, red fire door marked staff only. The nurse and the gurney. They didn't stop. They didn't open the door. They turned the corner into the small alcove. "Ma'am, stop." Emma rounded the corner, her shoes squeaking on the linoleum. She was met with a blank wall and a locked door. The hallway was empty. There was no one there. The nurse, the gurney, the body, ... gone. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. She slammed her palm against the fire door. It was solid, cold steel, and the small green light above it glowed. Locked. No, ... no. I saw her. I smelled her. She was losing her mind. She had to be. This was a hallucination. The stress, the lack of sleep, the stories. She stumbled back toward the ICU, her body shaking. She passed the security station. The same guard was at the desk, his head nodding. "Again," Emma demanded, her voice hoarse. "East wing, main corridor. 4:02 a.m. Now." The guard, startled, pulled up the feed. "Look, nurse," he sighed. "It's empty, Naughton." There he was right. The grainy footage showed an empty, shadow-filled hallway. Her own form, stepping out of the ICU, Then rounding the corner, alone, The audio, Emma whispered. Turn up the audio feed. The guard shrugged and hit the switch. The video was silent. But from the speakers, clear as day. Squeak roll squeak roll. And the sound of Emma's own footsteps, trying to catch up. The guard's face went white. Emma didn't say another word. She turned and ran. Not to the ICU, to the staff locker room. She needed her bag. She needed ... She didn't know what she needed. She just needed to be in a solid, real place. She fumbled with the key for her locker, but she didn't need it. The small metal door was already slightly open, ajar. She had locked it. She knew she had locked it. With a trembling hand, she pulled the door open. The metallic groan echoed in the small room. Sitting on top of her folded jacket, as if it had been placed there just for her, was an old, brown, leather-bound journal. The edges were worn, the leather cracked with age. Embossed on the cover, in faded gold lettering, was a name. Sarah Mitchell, RN Private Journal, 2005. Emma snatched the journal. It was cold to the touch, or maybe her hands were just numb. She didn't go back to the ICU. She couldn't. She ran into the women's restroom, locked herself in the last stall, and sat on the closed toilet lid, her back pressed against the cold, grimy tile. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely open the cover. The smell of old, mildewed paper and dry leather hit her. The paper was yellowed, brittle at the edges. The handwriting was unmistakable. The same elegant, forceful, blue-black fountain pen script. But this time it was angry. The words were pressed so hard into the page, she could feel their imprint on the reverse side. The first entry was dated March 12, 2005. Emma began to read. The narrator's voice shifts, taking on a slightly more urgent, echoing quality. As if reading Sarah's thoughts. If someone is reading this, I am already dead. I know they will kill me. But the truth about Bed 13 must be known. Someone has to make them stop. They won't kill anyone who speaks out. Emma's heart pounded. Sarah Mitchell, the nurse from the hallway. She flipped through the pages. The entries were sporadic, growing more frantic. Narrator is Sarah, April 4th, 2005. I've been on the night shift for a month. They bring in the special patients. No names, no charts, no families. They are ... ghosts. Dr. Cross handles everything. They all go to Bed 13. April 19th, 2005. I heard him call it the Lazarus Protocol. He's not studying near-death experiences. He's inducing them. He says he's mapping consciousness. But ... the patients, they don't come back right. They come back ... empty. May 10th, 2005. He's not just mapping it. He's trying to transfer it. He's playing God, but he's failing. He's breaking their souls, and the ones who get lost, they don't move on. They stay here. I can ... I can feel them. They're trapped in the walls, in the equipment. They are screaming. Emma felt sick. Dr. Krauss, Lazarus Protocol. She burst out of the stall. She had to know. She ran back to the ICU, to the terminal. Tom and Jenna watched her, their faces pale, but they said nothing. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She tried to access the hospital's human resources database. Search, Sarah Mitchell. The screen flashed red. Access denied. File B13 cleared. Level 10. Level 10. That was board of directors level. Why would a nurse's file be sealed? She tried another search. Dr. Lucius Cross. This time, a result. Lucius Cross, MD, PhD. Department of Neurology. Status, emeritus. Retired. Still alive? Where did you get that? Emma jumped, a small scream escaping her. Claire Thompson was standing directly behind her, a ghost in her own right. Her eyes were not on the screen. They were riveted to the leather-bound journal in Emma's hand. Claire, ... Miss Thompson, ... I, ... Answer me? Claire's voice was a blade. Where did you get that? It was in my locker, Emma said, her voice shaking. It just ... appeared. That's impossible. Claire's face was chalk white. It was supposed to have been destroyed. With her other effects. You knew her, Emma whispered. You knew Sarah. This Lazarus protocol, what is it? What happened in bed 13? Give me the journal, Nurse Chun. Claire held out a trembling hand. This is not your concern. This is an old, tragic history. For your own safety, you will give me that book, and you will forget you ever saw it. Emma clutched the journal to her chest. She saw the fear in Claire's eyes, but now she saw something else, too. A deep, abiding grief. No, Emma said, her voice small but firm. Not until you tell me what happened to her. Claire's composure, the iron mask she had worn for years, finally shattered. Her face crumpled. She looked, for a second, like an old, terrified woman. She slowly lowered her hand. Sarah, Claire whispered, her voice cracking. She jumped from the hospital roof. July 2005, right after her shift. She leaned in, and her eyes, wet with tears, locked onto Emma's. The official report said it was suicide, depression, job stress. Claire's voice dropped to a barely audible, chilling whisper. But Emma, ... I knew her. Sarah wasn't suicidal. She wasn't depressed. She was terrified. The last hour of the shift. The sky outside was just beginning to bruise with the first sickly, gray hint of dawn. The IC was quiet, but it was a predatory, watchful quiet. Emma was back in the locker room. Her shift was almost over, but her night was just beginning. She had the journal open on her lap. Adrenaline had burned away her exhaustion, replacing it with a cold, sharp dread. She couldn't let Claire take this. It was the only evidence. With frantic, silent movements, she used her phone to photograph every single page. Click, click, click. The sound of the digital shutter was deafening in the small room. She had to get this data out. After photographing the last page, she hid the physical journal in the bottom of her backpack, zipped it up, and slung it over her shoulder. It felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She turned to leave, and she stopped. The staff bulletin board. It was covered in new memos, safety protocols, reminders about flu shots. But underneath one, a corner of an old photograph was peeking out, tacked to the corkboard for 2 decades. St. Catherine's ICU Team, Summer Gala, 2005. Emma's heart stopped. She pulled the pin, sliding the old, faded 4x6 photo out. The colors were washed out to a sickly yellow. Her eyes scanned the faces. There, in the front row, smiling, vibrant, and alive, was Sarah Mitchell. Her arm was linked with another nurse, a younger, happier Claire Thompson. And in the back row, standing with a group of residents, ... a familiar, handsome face. A man she had only seen in hospital memos. Dr. James Rivera, the current ICU attending. The man she was supposed to be meeting for her orientation tomorrow. In 2005, he was just a resident. He was here. He was part of it. Emma's eyes drifted to the background of the photo. The party had been held in the ICU, apparently, and in the background was bed 13. It was occupied. A patient was in the bed, hooked up to a tangle of wires and machines. But the patient's face, it wasn't blurred. It wasn't out of focus. It had been scratched out. Someone with a pin or a razor blade, or just their own fingernail, had violently, meticulously scraped the emulsion off the photograph, obliterating the face of the person in that bed, leaving nothing but a white, jagged scar on the paper. "Well," Emma whispered, a bubble of hysterical laughter rising in her throat. "That's not ominous at all. Guess he wasn't photogenic." She shoved the photo in her pocket and ran. 9 a.m. Emma stumbled into her apartment. The morning sun streaming through her windows felt like an assault. It felt obscene. The normal world was a lie. She locked her deadbolt, her backpack dropping to the floor. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A notification. Cloud backup. Sarah's journal album successfully uploaded. Good. The photos were safe. A second later, her phone buzzed again. An angry, insistent vibration. A new email. The sender was unknown. The address was an internal, high-level hospital admin account. lcross@stcatharines.internal.exec. An account that shouldn't even be active. The sender's signature was just two initials. LC. Lucius Cross. The body of the email was one chilling sentence. "Emma Chun, you look just like your father. Bed 13 has been waiting for you." Her father? How? Emma ran to her hall closet, pulling down a dusty storage box labeled Dad's Things. Her mother had given it to her when she moved out. She had never had the strength to open it. She tore it open. The smell of dust and dry cardboard filled the air. Old books, textbooks, a framed degree. And underneath it all, a laminated hospital ID badge. She picked it up. Her father, David Chun, smiled back at her. Younger, happier. The ID read, David Chun, MD, PhD, St. Catherine's Hospital, Department, Neurology. The issue date, January 2005. The same year, the same department as Cross. He was here. He had worked with them. Emma's phone, which she had dropped on the floor, lit up. The screen glowed, showing the last photo she had taken. The last frantic entry in Sarah Mitchell's journal. A page she hadn't had time to read in the hospital. Its narrator's voice, as Sarah, filled with final, desperate terror. July 1st, 2005. Dr. Chun found out. He discovered the truth about the protocol. He tried to stop Cross. He threatened to go public. But they caught him. They subdued him. Oh God, Emma's father. They didn't just fire him. They didn't just disappear him. They made him the 13th subject. And so, Emma's first night ends, not with the light of day, but with the truth buried for 20 years. Her father, Dr. David Chun, did not die in an accident. He was a prisoner. The final, terrifying entry in Sarah's journal confirms it. They made him the 13th subject. Emma is now holding a ghost's warning in her hands. And the man who wrote her father's fate, Dr. Lucius Cross, is still watching. He knows she is in the hospital. He knows who she is. How can she return to that? I see you knowing what she knows. How can she face the people who worked with her father and with Sarah? The night shift is over, but the nightmare has just begun. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. The next part of Emma's journey, Episode 2, Sarah's Last Days, will be waiting. But for now, the investigation must wait. We leave Emma with her terrible discovery, and we return you to the safety and quiet of your own room. Following these words, this video will transition to a 30-minute black screen. There is nothing more to see. It is time to let go. Close your eyes. Relax your body. Let the mysteries and the horrors of St. Catherine's fade away. Let the darkness settle. Sleep well. We will be waiting for you on the next night shift.